how do you actually bulk up? How to bulk without the fast food carbs. Bulking diet plan for bodybuilding. What are the best things for people to add to their diet for a bulk? I've been bulking for the best part of a year now. Here's what I looked like last year, and here's how I look now. You have two paths that you can go down. You can either try and bulk and hate it and not stick to it and end up burning out with no gains, being inconsistent, eating food you don't like, or just plainly getting it wrong. Or you could go down the second path. This is the path where you genuinely like bulking. You eat tasty, nutritious food that supports not only your health, well-being and mindset, but also genuinely helps you grow more muscle than you've ever had before. This bulking diet will give you the perfect fuel for you to have a fast and noticeable muscle gain. Today I'll be going through all the best foods that you need to eat for bulking, and I'll also be going through how much you need to eat and what we want our macros to look like. Don't worry, it's nowhere near as complicated as many influencers have tried to make it out to be. Believe me, it's really not that hard. First, find the amount of calories that you need to eat. Do this by going into the description. I'm not sponsored at all. It's a website called the Calorie Counter. You put in your weight and your height, if you're male or female, and your age, and it will come out with a rough estimate of how many calories you would need to intake in order to maintain your weight. Now, what we want is to increase this, I would say by 20 to even 30% if you want to take more of an extreme bulking kind of journey. So take these calories, add 20 to 30% on top. So for example, if it's 2,000 calories, that will either be 2,200 or 2,400 calories for you to intake from now on. Also, in my opinion, you should be looking for something like 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of your body weight. So to break this down even further, you might be something like maybe 60 kilograms or 70 kilograms. So you'd be looking at something like 140 grams of protein every single day. Now, if you look at what the government is telling you is healthy to do, it'll be 1.6 grams to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram. Now, I have just taken the highest on that spectrum because, to be honest, that is also taking into account people who can make muscle way more than we can with way more ease. We are hard gainers, or at least we are at the minute until you sort your diet out. It will be more difficult for us to put on muscle, therefore meaning we should aim for the highest of this range in order to make sure that we are able to get enough protein for our body to actually create muscle, because I know we almost at this point have to do it forcefully. The ratio of protein to carbs to fat should be 35% carbs, 25% protein, and 40% fat. A lot of people shy away from fat, and you really shouldn't. Fat is not unhealthy. There is some evidence towards saturated fats being unhealthy for cholesterol, and if that's an issue in your family, and if that's something that your DNA kind of makes you more of a risk for, definitely take that into consideration and maybe pull back on some of those. For example, I'm talking about coconut oil, maybe butters. Instead, try and use avocado oil and stuff like that. But there's also evidence to that saturated fat being used in the creation of testosterone. So there's swings and roundabouts when it comes to this. There's ups and there's downs. Do your own research. Me personally, I don't really take any notice. I use butter, I eat beef. Maybe I'll come back in 10 years and I will look like Liver King, who knows. But all I know is that I have gained a lot of muscle, and fat is quite calorie dense. Another thing is a lot of people will be looking at this video and going, oh, you've said you should have a lot of carbs. That actually isn't healthy. Well, for some people, they would like to go on keto or they go on something like that. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But for us, we need the calories. And especially if we're in the gym, we also need the carbohydrates because we are trying to have some energy in the gym to actually use. That's why I have included carbs. And also, you could also be saying, oh, protein, you've put the lowest percentage of protein even though that's what makes the muscle. Yes, I have. Because protein isn't that easy to come by. I know you can take like protein powders, fair enough, but good protein, especially from whole foods, is something that is almost always lower than fat or carbohydrates. So we have to be realistic here, and also having too much protein doesn't really give you that much of a positive effect. You still need to make sure you're having a full range, full spectrum diet. So with this information, here are the foods that you should be eating. First will be on meat. Now, the best meat is chicken. That's just by far. But what a lot of people don't realise is when they're bulking, they've just tried to go for the brown rice and the broccoli and the chicken breast. Well, that's not particularly the educated decision. Chicken thighs are going to have way more fat, a similar amount of protein than chicken breast, but a lot more calories. So they are really important here, especially skin on and bone in chicken thighs are really good for maintaining a budget as well. So I would say chicken thighs, obviously chicken breast, chicken wings are good as well, but you're going to have to eat quite a few because there's only a little bit amount of meat that's actually on that cut. We're talking about steak as well. The more fatty the steak you get, also the more expensive it gets, but the more calories that are in it. For example, a ribeye is the most expensive, but also the most calorie dense. A kind of perfect in between for this, I think, is sirloin. That is very calorie dense. You can do some pork or some lamb. I don't typically do it just because lamb can run a lot more expensive and pork is just not as tasty and not as nutrient dense as beef and chicken. Beef mince as well for pasta is really good, but I would reserve kind of pork and lamb for treats personally. Pork belly or something like that is also really good for bulking. It's high in fat, not that high in protein, but for a treat it's absolutely perfect. Next we'll be talking about fish. So for fish, you're pretty much going to want to look for mackerel and for salmon fillets in particular. Salmon fillets is high in omega-3 fatty acids, which is really good for muscle protein synthesis, which is making sure that your body is actually intaking the protein and turning it in to the muscle that we are desiring. So salmon, mackerel, those are pretty perfect. The thing is with whitefish is they are quite high protein but quite low calorie. So for bulking they're not amazing, but you can still have them. Of course you can have any kind of fish because they're ultimately all healthy in some way or another, but those are best for bulking. The fatty fishes is what you want to look for. Now down to vegetables, again, all vegetables are good. I would say broccoli is really amazing, asparagus is really amazing. Definitely sweet potatoes, although this is still kind of in the carb section, but sweet potatoes are amazing for bulking because they are super tasty and super calorie dense. I would also say raw spinach and raw kale are really good for nitric oxide, which is actually a kind of free radical that opens up your blood vessels, which usually gives you a better performance in the gym. Those are actually really good for athletic performance, and a lot of people don't know that. Fruits as well are really good. Obviously there's some fruits that are just really sugary, but it's natural, so I can kind of look past it. But pineapple and kiwis are really, really great for having enzymes in them that helps your body break down the protein that you will be ingesting and helping it. And to help it being put towards your muscle growth, you're going to want to look for something like pomegranates as well. The same thing. It has the nitric oxide in it, which will help your athletic performance. And those are kind of the main ones. But the thing is with fruits and vegetables is there's really no point in me even giving you a list of these because they're all going to be good in their own way. Obviously, you can overeat them. Yes, you can. But they're all pretty good in their own right. Now let's talk about carbs, and we may as well talk a little bit about sweets and treats in there as well. So carbs, again, I would say the best one, the number one is sweet potatoes. They are the best. They are tasty, they are calorie dense, they are good for you. Normal potatoes are up there as well as I would say sourdough bread or whole wheat bread is really good as well. Pasta, kind of organic or just homemade pasta is best. You can use lower quality pasta, it's fine, it's just pasta. Rice is an absolute go-to as well, fantastic for budget living and making sure that you're not spending a lot of money, because that's just sadly something you have to think about a lot of the time when you're bulking, because all this does cost money. By the way, I would always say jasmine rice. And carbs goes hand in hand with sweets. Now, I'm not someone who eats sweets a lot of the time. And when I say sweets, I don't mean like Haribo's, like, you know, like sweets. I mean like treats. Things that you will just have around the house that you just would like a little bit of every now and again. So I would recommend personally use dried fruits. So use dates or dried figs or dried prunes if you like. Something like these are high in fiber as well, so they're really good for your digestive system while also having that really sweet kind of taste that can help you move more away, like, I don't know, buying a dairy milk bar. And talking about chocolate, high percentage chocolate is also really good for you and also a really nice treat. Now you do have to kind of get used to it. I have a 85% chocolate bar. A lot of people would have it and think it was absolutely disgusting, which is fair enough. But that's only because they've been conditioned to eat milk chocolate their whole life. And milk chocolate is basically just a dash of chocolate and mostly milk, and then loads of sugar. No wonder that is such a popular product. So go for something like that. Go for the high percentage chocolate, maybe some like candied ginger or something like that. And also you can just have the packets of crisps that you were going to have anyway. The thing is with bulking is you also need that balance. So you need to make sure that you are eating really good food, but if you need it, and this is a very common thing to need, yes, buy the sweets that you like. Yes, buy the crisps that you like. Buy the cupcakes to keep in the fridge or something. If that means that you're going to be living a more healthy life overall, then it'll be worth it. Don't let anyone tell you that in order to change your body and to have more muscle, you have to be 100% perfect. That's not true at all. You just have to do enough and you have to be consistent for yourself. If you want to know how to bulk on a diet, watch this card.